Hello, everybody, and welcome to Breathography Fundamentals. This is your second video of your foundational series. At this point, you should have already watched your zip-up activation pelvic floor AbRibbon video. That video prefaces this video so that you have a very strong understanding of what the zip-up activation is to set up your core and set up your posture before you go into your breathography exhalation and inhalations, okay? So because you have watched your zip-up activation, we are going to go right into practicing our 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 zip-up activation on the exhalation. Let's press ourselves back against a wall immediately so that you can feel those key postural points that we reinforced in that zip-up activation video. So press yourself back against a wall, just gently, anatomical position, palms back against, palms forward, hands back against the wall. Let's take it right from that zip up. Here we go. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That happened on a hiss exhalation. Let's practice it a few more times. Remember, that's pelvic floor is pulling together and lifting on 1. Navel pulls back on count 2, ribs on 3, shoulders 4, head gently back on count 5. That happens on a hiss exhalation. I'll say the body parts this time as a review. And here we go. Pelvic floor, navel, ribs, shoulders, head. Inhale. Take it again. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so you feel the base of the ribs pressing back against the wall. You feel the ribs closing. You feel the collarbone opening, and you feel that pelvic floor consistently and continuously lifting and pulling together, really isometrically engaging that pelvic floor. Now, let's continue. What happens after our zip-up activation? An engaged inhale. 2 sniffs of air through the nostrils. Whenever we inhale in the breathography, we are always going to inhale through the nostrils, okay? Nostril breathing is so important to integrate into your routine. It develops that nitric oxide in the system. It provides another key resistance point, or 2 resistance points, both of your nasal cavities, for the air to come in. So we're really using our nasal cavity to provide a resistance point to strengthen our diaphragm, right? That biggest muscle at the base of the lungs that lowers down when we inhale. So the double engaged inhale sounds and looks like this. Zip up activation on a hiss. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Double engaged inhale through the nostrils. 1, 2, on 2 of those metronome beats. And that's why I have the metronome going today, because we are always following that 60 beats per minute metronome to stay at a maximum breath rate of 6 breaths per minute. Now, why an engaged inhale and what is an engaged inhale? You have just zipped up and activated those muscles, the pelvic floor, the navel, the transverse, the ribs, the upper middle transversus abdominis, driving the ribs back against the wall, the shoulders, the head. Now, you need to take 2 tiny sips of air through the nostrils, keeping those muscles engaged. So ultimately, we're directing our breath into our rib cage, but specifically our posterior ribs. So think about it. If we've really contracted in the pelvic floor and the anterior core, that's the front, the abs, closing the corset. When we take that double sniff inhale, make letter C's with your index fingers and thumbs, you're going to inhale right into the base of those ribs, but particularly into the posterior ribs, where a lot of us have a lot of stiffness. So use that double sniff inhale to send air into these pockets right here, because you're directing it there. You're forcing it there because you're so engaged in your zip up exhalation muscles. So here we go. We've zipped up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm very zipped up. Watch where my air goes. 1, 2. Right, I'm very engaged here. And of course, you're feeling some filling 360 degrees, but really focused on that area in the back. That double sniff exhalation sets us up for our 8-second engaged exhalation. So we're continuing to zip up in those zip up activation muscles, not only on the engaged inhale, but also on the engaged exhalation, okay? So that is the first component of your breathography sequence. Number 1 is zip up activation. Number 2 is engaged inhale, 2 sniffs of air, 2 seconds, and then an 8-second exhalation. That's engaged, and we will go into that after we practice the engaged inhale a couple of times. So let's palms face forward. Let's take it from the hiss, followed by a double sniff engaged inhale. Don't let those muscles go. Here we go, hiss. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Inhale 1, inhale 2. Let's practice again. Everything releases from the hiss. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Inhale 1, inhale 2. right? A lot of resistance feels so good because you're really strengthening the diaphragm. You're providing the diaphragm with a certain amount of resistance to get it stronger. So it's almost like you're handing your diaphragm, a 15-pound weight, and instead of doing a chest press, you're inhaling down against that 15 pounds of resistance. Sometimes it's more than that, and sometimes it's less than that. I don't know exactly how much the resistance is, but just as an analogy, if you think about these muscles, actually visualize them as a dumbbell, as a 15-pound dumbbell. You're pushing it up, and then you're using the diaphragm to body build, right? You're pushing down into the weight, down into the weight, down into the weight. Okay, so let's practice that just a couple more times, and then we'll go into our engaged exhalation. Press back against the wall from the hiss. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Inhale 1, inhale 2. Everything releases. Let's practice it again. Here we go. And hiss, 2, 3, 4, 5. Inhale 1, inhale 2. And if it helps you to make letter C's right at the base of the ribs, right? So that's why I love the letter C. This is very standard protocol for teaching 360-degree breathing. Breathe into those C shapes of your hands, right? Fill them. That is a really nice way to teach diaphragmatic breathing. I don't prefer to teach diaphragmatic breathing by saying just belly breathe, because sometimes what I find is that an individual is actually not fully lowering and lifting their diaphragm, but instead they're just, I can exhale and jump my tummy out. And sometimes that can be misconstrued for proper diaphragmatic breathing, where really, if you start with that engaged inhale, then you know where you can feel immediately where that inhalation is coming from. And you're giving your diaphragm some resistance. So it's a really effective strategy of strengthening the inhalation and the diaphragm. Okay. So now that we have the double engaged inhale, we're going to go into our 8-second exhalation. Now, the breathography technique, within that 8-second exhalation, you have 4 twos. 4 times 2 makes 8. So 4 components of the 8-second exhalation. And this is very important because this is going to change up the intensity at which you exhale by providing your breath with pressure, using your tongue, your mouth, and pressure of the abdominals to get the air out. So it sounds like this. You start with 2 seconds on a blow through pursed lips, gently blowing, not too much air out on the blow, because you want the exhale to last for 8 seconds. And sometimes you're even following that with a breath hold. So be careful with that exhalation. So you're blowing for 2 seconds. You're softly hissing for 2 seconds. You're softly shushing for 2 seconds. And then you're loudly and aggressively shushing for 2 seconds. Shh, really providing that air with a ton of resistance, right? Look at how engaged my abdominals are. I've loosened my AbRibbon, okay? And I know I didn't mention this from the start, but using that AbRibbon as tactile feedback as to where the core is in space, and we talked about this a lot in the pelvic floor activation video. It's so key to know where you are in the breath cycle, to have some form of tactile feedback that gives you that feedback as to where the core is and where the diaphragm is in space, right? Because when we're on the zip up activation, we feel the looseness with the ribbon. When we go to the engaged inhale, we feel a gentle tension behind the ribbon. It's still a bit loose. And then as we go through our 8-second exhalation, it starts a bit tense. And by the loud shush, when our diaphragm is very raised and high and we've made our corset very small, we've loosened the ribbon again. And I will cue the ribbon throughout the workout, sometimes a bit tense, sometimes a bit loose. Many times I'll just say loosen the ribbon, loosen the ribbon, loosen the ribbon, because in those deep core exercises, we want to make sure that we are getting those deep core muscles activated in conjunction with those superficial core exercises when we're doing our planks and those other higher threshold core activities, right? And that's where some people can get into trouble when they have such strength in their type 2 muscle fibers, their fast twitch, their power muscle fibers, and they don't take time to strengthen those type 1, those tiny muscle fibers that help to prevent joint injury over time. And so by you loosening the ribbon while you perform your higher intensity exercise, that's just going to help give you a nice balance between those deep core muscles and the superficial core muscles, so that all the muscles are working synergistically to reduce the impact of the forces on the joint. And when all those muscles work together in tandem to produce the same amount of force, all of those muscles work a little bit less, which is a good thing, because we want to produce the same amount of force and get in shape, but we want to reduce the amount of load on each of those muscles so they are less likely to get injured, and all of them can work harmoniously hand in hand, right? So that is one of the reasons that I cue loosen the ribbon along the course of the workout. Okay, so 8-second exhalation. 2 beats on a blow, 2 beats on a hiss, 2 beats on a soft shish, 2 beats on a loud shish. And you will hear me repetitively say this in every single workout. Soft shish, it sometimes sounds like sausage, and that's okay. We all laugh about this. Sometimes the, like dictation on, like the speech to text will narrate it as sausage. It does sometimes sound like sausage. So if you have to say sausage for your soft shish, that's okay. And if you hear sausage, you know that I mean soft shish. Maybe eventually I'll find another term for it. But for now, you are softly shishing. You don't want to blow too much air out on that soft shish because you want to really, really, really expel that air on the loud shish. And that's when you really increase recruitment of the transversus abdominis, your internal obliques, and that is what makes the ribbon loose around your waist so that you know that you're getting that really nice contraction in the deep core in conjunction with the superficial core. So let me stand to the side and I'm going to demonstrate to you here what the 8-second exhalation looks like after the zip up activation. So let me take it, hands behind my head. Here we go. Hiss. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Inhale 1. Inhale 2. Blow for 2 seconds. Hiss for 2 seconds. Softly shishing for 2 seconds. Loudly shishing. Loosen that ribbon. So see, on that loud shish, I'm giving you a very aggressive pressured breath at that point. So I'm using the strength of my deep abdominals, the resistance from my mouth to provide that resistance for the air, which is allowing my abdominals to work even harder, but not so hard that I'm only recruiting my superficial core. And that is where the AbRibbon is really necessary, because at that point, ask yourself, is the ribbon loose or is it tight? If it's too tight and I'm performing that pressured, resisted breath, then I'm probably mostly recruiting my superficial abdominal muscles. And you can check yourself in all exercises, whether standing, functional movements, or even deep core exercises. So let's go and practice against the wall. Let's just take our zip up, our engaged inhale, and our 8-second exhalation. Here we go. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Inhale 1. Inhale 2. 2 seconds blow. Really, really intense, right? Especially when you press yourself back against the wall. Now, at the end of that 8-second exhalation, sometimes we will perform another engaged inhale, which will be 2 beats of an engaged inhale, and sometimes we will perform a breath hold. Usually, we are going to go right into another set of an engaged inhalation, which is 2 sniffs of air on all of those engaged muscles, those 15-pound dumbbells, lifting up as you push down with that diaphragm, and then you go into another 8-second exhalation. That is usually the point after the second set of the 8-second exhalation that we will put some level of either a rest period or a breath retention into. And I will always announce the breath retention patterns at the top of the breath cycle. So for example, our breath cycle that we are going to practice right now is just 0, is just 0, 0, right? So we're performing no breath holds. And when I say 0, that means no breath holds, just our 8-second exhalation. So right now, we're going to practice a zip up activation, an engaged inhale, an 8-second exhalation, an engaged inhale, an 8-second exhalation. And let's just keep going about 4 times in a row. So that's 4 sets of breath. So I'm going to say for this set, our breath retention pattern is 0, 0, 0, 0. Breath retention pattern, 0, 0, 0, 0. That means no breath holds, but 4 sets of the breath of the 2-8 breathing after the zip up activation. So every single set of exercise begins with our zip up activation, and then we go into a certain combination of breathography, breath choreography, and I'll always announce that formula to you at the top of the set so that you know what you're getting yourself into at that point, so you can mentally, psychologically prep for any apneas, a fancy term for a breath hold, within that set of exercise. Right now we have 0, 0, 0, 0, 4 sets of no breath holds. Let's go from zip up. Here we go. Hiss, 2, 3, 4, 5. Inhale 1. Inhale 2. Blow. Drain the air. Engaged inhales. 1, 2. Blow. 2 more sets. Engaged inhale. 1, 2. Blow. Keep the back of the neck nice and long. Hiss. Last set. Engaged inhale. 1, two, blow. My abs are already killing me, right? If you do the breathing correctly, you don't need to perform as many repetitions of abdominal exercises because you're getting your abs with your breathography patterns. So there's the example with no breath holds. Now let's start practicing some breath retentions, starting with a 2-beat, okay? And we're gonna practice whenever you do a level 1 video of any of our exercise programs, whether it's circuit training or core training or mobility, I will break this down more deeply so you do have more practice with this, okay? Now, let's say that our retention pattern this time is going to be 0, 2, 2. Well, that means 0, 2, 2, that means 3 sets of breath. First set, no breath hold. Second set, 2-second breath hold. Third set, 2-second breath hold. 0, 2, 2. Now a set of breath is always that 2-8 breathing, the double inhale and the 8-second exhale on that same pattern, blow, hiss, soft shish, loud shish, followed by either no breath hold or a breath hold. Because I just gave you a 0, 2, 2 retention pattern, we have 0, no breath hold, 2, 2-second breath hold, 2, 2-second breath hold, okay? So this exists in the around like the level 1, level 2 videos, right? Where we do some breath holds, but very minimal, okay? So let's take it 0, 2, 2, always starting with that zip up activation. Here we go. Hiss, 2, 3, 4, 5, inhale 1, inhale 2, blow for 2 seconds, hiss for 2 seconds, softly shishing, loudly shishing, drain the air, no breath hold, double inhale, 1, 2, blow for 2 seconds, hiss for 2 seconds, softly shishing, loudly shishing, keep those shoulders back, hold the breath for 2, 1, 2, double inhale, 1, 2, blow for 2 seconds, hiss for 2 seconds, softly shishing, loudly shishing, drive those ribs back, we have a 2-beat hold, 1, 2, and everything releases. So you see, that's the pattern. Now, if I say at the beginning of a set of exercise, your retention pattern here is 2, 4, 2. That's 3 sets of breath, ending with a 2-beat breath hold, a 4-beat breath hold, and a 2-beat breath hold. Let's go into it. Let's practice. Let's work your brain. Let's work your body. Let's work the respiration. Always from the zip up. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Inhale 1. Inhale 2. 2 beats. Blow. You're holding the breath for 2. 1, 2, double inhale, 1, 2. Again, 8-second exhale, blow. Hiss, softly shishing, loudly shishing, drain the air. You're holding the breath for 4. 4, 3, 2, and 1. Double inhale, 1, 2, blow. You're holding, hold, and release. Now let's practice that one again. I know sometimes I also do mess up in these series, and it's a good testament to how much you're strengthening your brain with these exercises, because not only are you practicing strengthening your respiration, but you're also practicing staying as focused as possible, because as soon as your mind wanders just for a moment, you lose either where you are in the breath cycle, even though I'm cueing you through the whole time, so it is fairly hard to lose the breath cycle, but you're also focusing on the patterning of the exercise and the combination of the breathing with the exercise. So it's like such an amazing way to increase that short-term memory, your reactive skills, preventing cognitive decline in conjunction with strengthening that respiration and reducing your stress levels, which breath retentions have been shown to do for decades of research, showing that we can lower our anxiety levels and our stress levels and our reaction to stress over the course of the day if we integrate and practice these breathing exercises. Now, combining them with exercise just makes life very efficient and effective, because, I know that most of us barely even have an hour every day to focus on exercise. So combine your breathing with your exercise, you are good to go. So now we're going to practice a retention pattern of, let's do 2, 6, 4. 3 sets. 2, 6, 4. Let's get it. Here we go. Hiss, 2, 3, 4, 5. Inhale 1. Inhale 2. Blow. Hold the breath for 2. 1, 2. Double inhale. 1, 2. Blow. You're holding for 6. 1, 2, keep the chest lifted. 3 and 4 and 5 and 6. Engaged inhales. 1, 2, blow. You're holding for 4. Loose ribbon. 4, 3, 2, and a 1. Now, really nice work if you got through that. Now, if you're a beginner, you may not be performing 6-beat or even 4-beat or even 2-beat breath holds yet. That's okay. And some of us will never work on a breath hold. That's also okay. I have an option for you. And I do have a modification video for those of you who are not performing breath holds, or for those of you who have not improved the carbon dioxide threshold enough to be able to perform a certain duration of breath holds. You go right back into that exhalation breathography. So instead of doing that 6-beat breath hold, you just inhale once instead of twice, and you go right back into the blow, hiss, soft shish, loud shish, just to increase recruitment of those abs. I have another video devoted to that, so please visit that video to review what you will do if you're not performing the breath hold. Otherwise, challenge yourselves to those breath holds. I'm telling you, it has unbelievable benefits for not only the isometric contraction of the abs at low lung volume, but additionally, really focusing on increasing that carbon dioxide threshold during those breath holds, which does reduce our state anxiety, which is the amount of anxiety that we just have at a low level, right? In this day and age, we're so sympathetically driven, highly stressed, highly triggered by all of the stimulus in our environment. And so by performing a practice several times a week that helps to not only strengthen our respiratory system and our whole musculoskeletal system, but also helps to balance out the relationship between those two fundamental components of the autonomic nervous system, the parasympathetic and the sympathetic, we can be more successful at staying calm during the day. And all of us know that stress is a real thing, and it is something that can shorten our lives and make us very sick. If we can improve our relationship with stress, I'm not saying stress shouldn't exist. Eustress, EUSTRESS, that is a good stress. That is a very good stress. We want good stress in our lives. We want to be challenged, but we want to have a nice relationship with it. We want to be balanced with it. We want to have spikes of stress and good stress and have a good relationship with it, but not have that low level of chronic anxiety and just being, those awful Pavlovian triggers to an email popping up or a text message popping up or, a kid crying or whatever it may be. Let's control our response to that so that we're only having that heightened response to situations that deserve that response, right? And then we really can react appropriately in our sympathetic nervous system to and apply our sympathetic nervous system to those situations where we could be in danger, or we do need to move really quickly, or we should be stressed. And then we can use that. That system is meant to be used for a reason. So we should use it, like driving a car. Drive your sympathetic nervous system acutely, and then give it a rest and have a better relationship with it. So ultimately, this is why we perform breath retentions, right? We're improving our carbon dioxide threshold, which is helping us deal with stress in life, which is ultimately contributing to longevity and health, anti-aging. And additionally, we're strengthening our deep abdominals by holding that low lung volume and stabilizing our spine with our internal obliques and our transversus abdominis that really upregulates on that loud shish as we're squeezing the air out. And such a wonderful way to also strengthen our respiratory system, the elasticity of our lungs, our lung capacity. And we've learned over time that lung capacity is one of the leading predictors of a long life. So if I haven't convinced you already that you should be working on your breathing in conjunction with exercise, please call me. Let's have a conversation about this, because I'm highly passionate about the fact that you should be working your breathing in conjunction with exercise. Hence, breathography and the whole Hypoxix methodology. So now we've practiced quite a bit with our retention patterns. Now you understand if I present a formula to you, that is the formula that you perform during that set of exercise, whether it be a lunge or a squat. If I say squat, 2, 4, 6, we're going through that 8-second exhale. You're doing a 2-beat breath hold, 8-second exhale, 4-beat breath hold, 8-second exhale, 6-beat breath hold. Now, one of the other reasons, and before I go into the next component, one of the other reasons that we perform both inhales engaged and exhales engaged is that I want you to be able to strengthen and use the diaphragm for spinal stability, whether it's in a low position or whether it's in a high position, in all of those areas in between. So when I take a big inhale, my diaphragm lowers down quite a bit. My ribs are expanded. I'm working on rib mobility by directing that breath into the ribs. That's why we perform that engaged inhale. And then over the course of exhalation, the diaphragm, as we then increase the intra-abdominal pressure through ab activation versus the diaphragm pressing down, we are stabilizing our spine using our abs. So we start with that intra-abdominal pressure created mostly from the lowering of the diaphragm. And IAP, that's the abbreviated form of intra-abdominal pressure. That is one of the main ways that we stabilize the spine during exercise. And so this is, we're learning this bracing strategy to alternate between using the diaphragm for stability, and then as we exhale, we're up-regulating these deep abs, and then we're using our obliques and our transversus abdominis to create that intra-abdominal pressure. And at that point, we have our spinal stability from our abs. So see the relationship. We're alternating between diaphragm for stability, abs for stability, diaphragm for stability, abs, diaphragm and air for stability, drained air and abs for stability, right? So I'm teaching you to cyclically breathe throughout a workout using diaphragm and air for intra-abdominal pressure and spinal stability, abs for intra-abdominal pressure and spinal stability. And you see the relationship. They're inversely related. They go like this. And I'm teaching you to inhale and exhale throughout the workout, continuously stabilizing your spine with that intra-abdominal pressure and that tensing of the muscles on that fascia into the low back, right? We never stop breathing in the workout, and we never stop stabilizing your spine, right? So there's the key, and it's so exciting. Now, I have one more quick component of the breathography to teach you, and it's a released inhale or a mobility breath. I'll sometimes call it a released inhale, sometimes mobility breath, based on, how much, energy I have in my mouth in the moment during the workout. But they both mean the same thing, and ultimately means you're inhaling, releasing the abs, and releasing the pelvic floor. It is just as important to be able to release the pelvic floor as it is to engage the pelvic floor. And most of the time, the majority of the workout in these workouts, I'm having you perform an isometric and dynamic contraction of the pelvic floor. And that is because increased recruitment of the pelvic floor helps with increasing recruitment of the transversus abdominis, stabilizing the low spine. And because I'm teaching you a bracing and a breathing strategy, breathography, to utilize in conjunction with the workout, you are improving the stabilization of your spine by keeping that pelvic floor contracted for the majority of the breath. Now, throughout the day, should you always have your pelvic floor clenched? No, the answer is no. We perform bicep curls in the workout. I'm having you, do you walk around the rest of the day with your bicep fully flexed? No, you're creating strength in the muscle so that you can then allow it to have a better resting neutral tone throughout the rest of the day, okay? Now, for some of you who have had pelvic floor issues or pelvic floor dysfunction and you may be hyperspasmed in the muscle, you also do need extra assistance, and you need that manual therapy in conjunction with work like this. For some individuals with spasms in the pelvic floor, I do find that a maximum contraction can help with stimulating blood flow in the area so that you can then fully release. It's kind of like leaning into and strength training a muscle that is very tight. Sometimes it's tight because it's not strong enough, right? But of course, as with many elements of a training program, you need to test and you need to assess, you need to have a journal, and you need to figure out what works for you. For some people with pelvic floor dysfunction, they actually need to focus more on releasing of the pelvic floor. This is why I put the release of the pelvic floor intermittently within the workout. It's not in between every exercise. Again, we're focusing mostly on lifting and contracting the pelvic floor, but sometimes I will give you your retention pattern, and I'll say 2, 4, 6 retention pattern followed by a 3-beat mobility breath. That would mean when you finish your 2, 4, 6, your third set, you've held your breath for 6. Your 3-beat mobility breath looks like this: 1, 2, 3. So again, it's a sniff. It's the same as the engaged inhale, where you have a sniff of air per beat of the metronome. But look, I'm releasing 1, 2, 3. I'm not pushing my abdomen out, but I'm just letting it release the whole circumference is releasing and it's pushing, it's releasing into the ribbon. It's not pushing. I'm not bearing down, because bearing down on the pelvic floor, bearing down on the abs, that could contribute to problems in the pelvic floor. I want you to feel it releasing and the pelvic floor opening in the opposite direction that you learned from the pelvic floor video, but releasing, right? Not bearing down, not pushing down, okay? So let's practice a couple sets here. And it's pretty simple and actually feels really good to release it after you've contracted it quite aggressively. So let's do our zip up activation, and we'll do only 2 sets of breath. We'll do a 2-beat hold, then a 4-beat hold. So that's a 2-4 retention pattern, followed by a 4-beat mobility breath. Okay, so let's just go into it. Let's practice. Here we go. Hiss. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Inhale 1. Inhale 2. Blow. You're holding for 2. 1, 2. Double inhale. 1, 2. Blow. You're holding for 4, 4, 3, 2, 4-beat mobility breath. 1, 2, 3, 4, and release, right? So we're getting that stretch on the pelvic floor. You saw my abdomen expand at that point, and I have several variations on that. We won't go through all of the variations now, but just know, if I give you a retention pattern of 2, 6, 2, followed by a 3-beat mobility breath, that means you're doing 3 sets of breath, followed by a 2-beat retention, 6-beat retention, 2-beat retention, and then after that last 2-beat retention, we're going 1, 2, 3, and then release. Now, I don't follow every exercise with the mobility breath, nor do I have the mobility breath in every single one of the workouts. Sometimes we're just working super high intensity. We're getting a 15 or a 20-minute cardio series in, and we're just focusing on getting that breathography, those 8-second exhales and those breath holds in conjunction with the workout. Okay? The longer classes, and especially the mobility series, you will see those mobility breaths in there. I go all the way up to, as of now, a 6-beat mobility breath in the series. We may increase that even more, really exciting. And there are also some other core series where we will even add other combinations of engaged inhales. So we're working the abs with engaged inhalations. Many, 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 many variations, and I won't go into all of them right now because it can start to get confusing at a beginning level. So I just want you to have an understanding of, and this will help you just to get into the classes, get into the live classes, and get into all of the on-demand videos with a knowledge of what is the zip-up activation, what is an engaged inhale, what is that 8-second engaged inhale and a blow, hiss, soft shish, loud shish, and how do we perform the retention patterns, and what is a mobility breath. We've covered all of that, so you will have an understanding of that vocabulary, and just know that I will always announce the formula of the breath at the top of the set of exercise so that you are never guessing, what is she going to do? Is she going to give me an 8-second breath hold, or we're going to do 10 seconds, or we're going to do no breath hold, so that you can psychologically prepare for it, and also know if you want to make the decision to not go into a breath hold and you go right back into your exhalation for the period of time that I say hold the breath, in conjunction with keeping the ribbon loose around the waist. And that is just one more point that I want to make, is when you finished your 8-second exhale and you're on the loud shish, the ribbon should be very loose at that point. Your diaphragm is high, the diaphragm is not tensing the ribbon, and your transversus abdominis that pulls the navel into the spine, decreases the circumference of the waist, is held for either the breath retention or the period of time that you're exhaling again. So when you go back into your 8-second exhale, if you're not performing a 6-beat breath hold, it's a tinier breath because you're trying to keep the ribbon loose around the waist. So it's a new challenge when you move to that retention period. And that is one of the other reasons I love that retention period, whether you are performing a breath retention or whether you go back into your 8-second exhale. It's a tinier sip of air because you're holding that very low lung volume position, that very drained air position. So you're using at that point your internal obliques, your transversus abdominis, your pelvic floor, external obliques, all of the muscles really, especially when you get in a plank, and you're even using your rectus abdominis to stabilize, and that's okay. The six-pack muscle gets a bad reputation because it has a tendency to overcompensate and pull too much on that fascia in the center, but it's a wonderful muscle. It's there for a reason, but use it in tandem with the other muscles. You can still have low lung volume and you can still have the ribbon loose around your waist while activating those superficial core muscles. You just have to get the deep core muscles working in tandem, creating the intra-abdominal pressure and really helping to stabilize in the spine. Now, The exception for the lesson that I just explained to you on intra-abdominal pressure would be for the postnatal individual or the individual with a hernia abdominally who may be need to be a bit more gentle with the exhalation. And I do have programs for you as well. I have a first aid program that goes postnatally through very gentle breathing, gently exhaling, gently inhaling, so that you are restoring that fascia and you're still wearing an AbRibbon. You're still learning to reduce the circumference of the waist, but you're not being as aggressive with the, with the loud shish. You're just being very gentle and you're starting with the ribbon a little bit looser, but you still are performing ultimately the same mechanisms, just at a much gentler level, okay? Because really, especially even the first couple of days after pregnancy, especially once you've been cleared to exercise by your doctor, but even before that, and you can ask your doctor about this, you can perform gentle breathing exercises to start to fuse that area. But of course, you want to spend a good 8 to 12 weeks focusing on those gentle exercises before you go into the more aggressive breathography that's really going to fuse your total body, your total core, and your total posture. Okay, I think that's it for today. Thank you so much for joining me for the Breathography Fundamentals. Make sure that you review again that first video, zip up, AbRibbon, and pelvic floor fundamentals, breathography fundamentals, and also check out the other foundational videos that go and review the pillars of hypoxics, why perform this exercise series, kind of gets into the science behind it. If you feel like nerding out with me, please join me. I love nerding out. Thank you so much. I'm so grateful for you. I'm so excited for you to strengthen your respiration, your mind, and your body with this method. Bye-bye.